We just heard from Danone's CEO. Give us your perspective. Have we seen the high watermark of globalization right now?
No way. It's going to continue. It's going to get stronger. It's going to accelerate. And we're going to move into greater and greater levels of integration. Now, you always have to plan, if you're the chief executive of Danone, you have to plan for slowdowns, you have to plan for even accidents, incidents. But the process of integration, it's like technology. Can you stop technology? No, you can't. It's like communications. It's like, the whole globalization process. Can you stop it? No, you can't. The question is how to harness it, what to do about it. This is the great challenge.
We have individual disputes. We always do, between any two countries or even groups of countries. But there are also the institutions that were created post-World War II to really create the structure of global trade. First GATT and then ultimately WTO. Are you concerned that the WTO as an institution may be undermined here? Because we certainly have some language, including coming out of Washington, that would suggest that.
We created these institutions, and the U.S. had a crucial role in creating these institutions, in building. These are the pillars of the post-World War II organization. And we should continue to strengthen them. Can we make them a little faster in taking decisions? Yes, we can, because by taking so long, in many cases being bureaucratic, what happens is that some of the clientele kind of moves away and goes for unilateral decisions because they perceive that they're faster. But the ownership of multilateral decisions, the sticking power, the staying power of multilateral decisions is much greater. It takes longer, yes, but then it sticks, it stays, and it's better owned, better shared by everybody, and then it works better.
So we have a tendency, maybe because we're in the United States, to focus on President Trump. He just had his speech before the UN General Assembly yesterday. But it's not just the United States that seems to be backing away from free trade in some areas. We have Brexit in Europe. We have elements of the new Italian government that seem to be putting up barriers. We have Hungary. We even have Sweden now. Sweden, for goodness sakes. So is this a broader worldwide phenomenon of people pulling back from actually tearing down borders?
Trade is slowing down. Trade used to be double the rate of growth of the world's GDP. That means if the world was growing at 4%, trade should be growing at 8%. Trade should be pulling the locomotive and the whole of the train. Trade should be the power. It's not being the power. Trade was flat, was very weak. Now it's growing below the rate of growth of the world GDP. So it's not doing its duty. All these tariff tensions, all these unilateral imposition, the bilateral, the retaliation is just making it more difficult to trade, to play its role. And we have to have trade back in the game. But the problems you're alluding to are not about trade. It took 9 months for the Czech Prime Minister to form a government, 7 months for Mark Rutte in the Netherlands to form a government, 5 months for Angela Merkel, of all people, to form a government in Germany. And then the unexpected results, as you mentioned, in Italy, even the recomposition of the political forces in Spain, Austria, and you just saw Sweden, okay? That is about the policies and the integration and the inclusiveness. We have not been inclusive enough. And it has nothing to do with trade. It has to do with the fact that we left too many people behind, both during the 10 years of the crisis, and we have not picked them up now in the recovery stage. So
you referred to the leadership position of the United States after World War II and setting up a lot of these institutions, the Bretton Woods Accords and things like that.
Oh, among others, the OECD.
OECD, there you go. Who is the leader now? Is there a leader emerging? Is it going to be China? I mean, as you mentioned, Angela Merkel could be, but she has her own political problems back home.
What we need is the institutions to be strengthened, the institutions to be believed on, and for the institutions, yes, to reform, to improve in the way they do things. But without these institutions, we'd have to create some new ones, and they're already there. Second, we have a multipolar world, both, technically from the point of view of the old world. You talk about military and you talk about things that have to do with power games, etc. But we also have a multipolar world when it comes to trade, to finance. We have a multipolar world when it comes to investment, to the digital. We have the multipolar world with some leadership in Europe, some leadership in China, some leadership in the United States. Therefore, the better way has to be cooperation, cooperation, cooperation.
Okay, finally, a word on climate. When you talk about cooperation, where are we in cooperating on climate?
We're not doing too well because we seem to have lost the momentum. Only 12% of the total emissions have a tax or a cost that goes above the $30, which is the imputed cost, the damage they do to the atmosphere. 50% of all emissions are not taxed at all. So we now have to recover that. Only 9 countries out of the 190 that signed the Paris Agreement have submitted their long-term plans to 2050. Just imagine, a lot of homework.
So we have a long way to go.
Long way to go.